G'day mate, and welcome back to Factorio with me, JD. We're back in the tutorial series that I paused doing quite some time ago when version 16 came out, and I haven't got back into it until my Discord had been harassing me for quite some time, and voila, here we are, because I set some time aside and decided today is the day to try and get this series back up and running, because one, it's important, and I like it when people say in the comments, hey, I learnt something, JD. Thank you very much. That's one of the main reasons I actually run the channel. And as promised at the end of the last tutorial episode, quite some time ago, I promised I'd look at oil. So here we are. We're looking at oil today, and we're going to cover as much as we can. I will tell you this is going to be a multi-part mini-series, I guess. So if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, for the next episode and probably the one after that, because oil's a fairly large topic. At the same time, if you're watching this after the fact, there will be a playlist linked either or both in the description and at the end of the video, where you can look at the next video, or you can even look at the previous videos which I've covered, smelting and belt balances and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to cover basic oil, as I said. Now basic oil has a basic build, and every build is slightly different. This is the one that I've built today as an example. It's not always the build I run with. I tend to, as if you watch any of my series, I tend to not have blueprints and make things up on the spot, which is perfectly fine. Some of us can do that. Some of us like to have a grand master plan to follow. Basic oil, first off, we'll start off with turns 100 crude into 30, 30, 40. So it's 30 heavy, 30 light, and 40 petroleum. With our early build, the only things we're taking out of it is potentially making flamethrower ammo, plus we're going to end up making lubricant, and plus we'll make sulfuric acid and plastic. Now plastic is going to be needed for red circuits, advanced circuitry or whatever it's called, along with blue sites. So really, oil is something you really build for blue sites. At the same time, you will need acid to make batteries, to make robots, which again is something that happens around about the blue science era, along with electric engines, which of course need lubricant, which means we need a heavy to lubricant conversion for both purple science and, as I said, robots. So our basic build has a couple of important facts. One, and this is probably the most important one, is when you change it to advanced oil, a lot of people confuse where their oil and their water go. You need to remember, and this is the easiest way to remember it, and it's how I've never screwed it up since I first did it, is the black for oil goes with black for petroleum. That's the most important thing. Just remember, black goes with black, you'll never have a problem again. The other side will end up being water, and we'll change that back, and you can see that's our water intake, that's our petroleum intake. Perfect every time. Next off, we've got our petroleum coming out as far as possible. This is actually an important piece of space that we'll end up using later. We've got our light oil coming out, and we've got a heavy oil coming out. Now, heavy and light are both being grabbed as soon as possible before they go in our storage tank matrix to be made into flamethrower ammo. Our light oil is going into this tank with a 2-tile gap with a couple of extra storage tanks. And the main reason we're doing this is, as I said, the ratio is 30, 30, 40 when you're processing oil. And if you look at my tanks, I've got 30 light, I've got 6 lots of light, 6 lots of heavy, and 8 lots of petroleum. This gives us plenty of storage space. Now, each player is different. Some of us can just bolt right through blue science, get advanced oil up and running as fast as possible. So you might only need the original tank. Other players take more time, or you might find yourself on a death world where time and resources are precious, so you don't get around to actually getting that next step and getting up to advanced oil processing. So this configuration gives you plenty of space, and these won't fill up at any time soon. From our 3 main tanks, so this one, and this one always stay as part of the build. These are the ones I end up running circuit conditions off and reading how much is in the tanks. These 3 are very important, and I don't plan on moving them. Whereas all the rest will end up going in due course. Here we run heavy into lubricant, nice and simple. We have our cracking set up here, even though it's not built yet. It's for the next stage, and so you guys can see that, hey, this is where I plan on putting it. As I said, plastic down here, acid over here, and this is a correctly ratioed acid build. I mean, early game, you probably can't run it at full speed. Generally, 1 or 2 of these with one acid machine is probably overkill. But if you've ever been curious what it looks like, and probably the most compact way of building it without doing a whole stack of belts running so far down a belt, is 5 sulfur machine into 2 acid machine into 1 tank. Works beautifully every time. I'm hoping to put blueprints in the description. If I don't, by all means, jump on there, pester me in the comments, or even better on Discord, and I'll get those blueprints out for you guys. Same time, I got water coming in on this side. Now, water is important. These sulfur machines use 30 water per second, and we've got 5 of them, which is 150 water. Plus, we've got 2 sulfuric acid machines using 100 water each. So that's 200 water plus the original 150. That's 300 water, 350 water per second. And we'll even bring up max rate calculator and set you to items per second. Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot. These actually craft at 1.25 speed. So it's even worse than that. It's 437 water per second. An offshore pump puts out 1200. Now, I've seen lots of people have giant oil builds, and they keep adding more and more to it and wondering why it doesn't run at full speed. 9 times out of 10, it's a lack of water. So I've actually got 1 water hooked up all the way up here for our cracking. As I said, not built yet. A second one dedicated to an acid build, because 9 times out of 10, you end up needing twice this amount of acid. Because it's only 125, it's not a grand amount. So yeah, normally I end up with 2 acid builds, and then I have a 3rd water pipe which snakes through all these tanks and everything in the actual oil refineries as well. So that's our first basic setup. When we come down here, this is at the point where we've finally got that first 75 packs, and we can actually start pulling out, start doing advanced oil. So we changed the recipe, which also changes the ratios. So I have a lot of people ask me, what are the ratios for oil? And my answer is always, I have no idea. I don't care. I build this system this way for a reason, which means I never actually have to worry about it. But it's something you guys are going to have to wait for the next episode to find out why I build it the way I do and why I never have to worry about it. So step 1 is always changing over from light oil to heavy oil, and as you can see, things are starting to back up. We can put on heavy oil cracking, which as I said, it's already set up. At the same time, we can do light oil to petroleum. Now I need to put some sort of draw on fluid void right there, because at the end of the day, all our petroleum is going to always end up disappearing into something, be it plastic, be it sulfuric acid, be it something. So this is the point where you actually have a perfect ratio, right? The perfect, technically, almost perfect ratio is 8 refineries doing advanced oil processing to 1 doing heavy to light oil, and then 7 doing light to petroleum. And as you can see, all my pumps are currently very, very busy running, and the main reason I have all these pumps put in is we've got lubricant, we've got heavy oil, we also have all these storage tanks. Because I put a 2-tile gap between all these, if I put a pump there, it's going to drain all these excess storage tanks into this main tank to then be cracked into light oil and run through the system. I want to do the exact same. I want to do the exact same thing with light oil. I want to put in a pump here to drain these tanks, because we don't need tanks and tanks lying around. 9 times out of 10, the thing we want to have is petroleum, and again, drain that out of the system. Assuming I happen to have lots and lots of petroleum laying around, same story. I could put a pump there which will drain all these tanks and run it into this storage tank here to then get turned to acid, or potentially into plastic as well. I'd have to reroute this pipe temporarily from where it is currently to right here. It's no real hassle to run it that way. Ideally, I'd like acid going one way and plastic going the other, so I can actually prioritize the two. But that's something we're going to cover in the next episode when we start covering smarts, because this works, except if you leave it for long enough, you're going to end up with no heavy oil because it all got pumped out and converted into light oil, and then from light oil into petroleum and into acid or plastic, and you end up with no lubricant and wonder why your base is stalled. So, next episode we'll cover more oil, along with smarts for oil, and why I never, ever, ever know what the ratio is, nor do I care what the ratio is, because I just built it with smarts in the first place. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch up with you next one. Alright, bye!